Welcome to the Matt Phillips Podcast. I am Matt Phillips, your sales leadership coach, mental toughness expert, and founder of Matt Phillips Coaching. We help sales managers and leaders make more money, save time, and become kick-ass leaders of their sales teams. And that's what we're here to talk about on this podcast. We are here to give you the tools and tactics to build a well-oiled sales machine and teach you the mental toughness skills so you can show up confident, focused, emotionally in control, and ready to energize your team. It's time to talk sales leadership and mental toughness. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Matt Phillips Podcast. So excited to be back with you today. I have a very special guest that actually I've heard on a number of podcasts, and now I get to have him part of my show. And you know that we're here to talk about sales leadership, about getting the best out of our people. And that's why I was so excited to have Dan join our podcast today as we get to dive into a little bit of the mindset of, hiring and firing and growing the best of the best. And I know that's of interest to you, right? Anybody in a leadership position, that hiring process is critical, right? If you get the right person right off the bat, you're setting yourself up for success. And Dan is an expert in that, right? So that's what we're going to cover today. So I hope you're excited about it, as excited as I am, I guess. But let me tell you a little bit about our guest before I welcome him in today. He is listening right now, so hopefully I pump him up a little bit and don't embarrass him a little bit by the nice things I'm going to say. But my special guest today is Dan Fantasia. Dan has been in the field of sales recruiting since 1997, and he actually founded a company called Treeline. You can go to treelineinc.com, but he founded that back in 2001. His entire focus is helping companies build world-class elite sales teams, right? So you're starting to see why I wanted to have him on as a guest today. But he's helped change the life of over 3,300 sales professionals. And I know he's got monster goals for continuing to help companies and sales professionals well beyond that 3,300 mark. Dan has a deep knowledge of what it takes to build and grow a top-producing business. And as a proven sales leader and innovator himself, he's created a positively charged culture that promotes the good in every person. And this is something that I think is critical, especially in the world that we live in today. And I could go on and on about just what Dan has done, just overcoming everything, back, remember September 11, 2001, overcoming COVID, continue to grow a business during these times and just sustain to where he's at today. And we were talking just before that, we've both been in business for quite a while, right? I was joking with him, I'm trying to catch up with him and just kind of stay on pace with him in my 11 plus years running Matt Phillips Coaching. But that aside, I'm excited to dive in. And Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. That was awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, now, so excited. And, we've got a lot to talk about. I have a bunch of different questions that I've written down that I know I want to learn from you about. I know our audience wants to hear as well. But I always like to start off the podcast with this one question. And because we're going to talk about leadership, right? And here's the question. Who is the best leader that you've ever had in your career? And what was so unique about him or her that made you kind of answer them?
Yeah, that's well, right off the top of my head, it comes to one person. His name's Tony Nutella. He was awesome. The company I worked at before I started Treeline was a company called Diversified Communications. He really recruited me into that business. He's the first guy that introduced me to recruiting when I had no clue what it was or what we did and what it was all about. And the reason why he was such a great leader is he was incredibly inspirational, motivated, positive, hard charging, just awesome, right? He was just an awesome executive, and he was transparent. He was honest. He would hold you accountable, right? Honesty. It's not uncommon for sales reps to get hopeful in regards to their forecasts.
Yes.
And sometimes you need honesty. You need to be honest with yourself before you can really forecast accurately. And he really helped our team, or at least me personally, understand and hold myself accountable, which was a real skill set.
So true.
And I don't want to drag on too much, but you know what? The interesting thing about Tony, Matt, was so cool is when he was motivating the team, we would meet on a Monday morning basis and throughout the week. And as he was speaking, most people were so caught up with what he was saying and the message that he was delivering to be motivated, to be hungry, to go at the day. And I was always writing down, I was listening to his message, but I was always writing down, why did he drive the message and how he drove the message? And believe it or not, that's what really helped me understand how to become an executive and a CEO, the CEO for Treeline. Like, it wasn't just listening and hearing what he said to me and the team. That's what most people heard.
Yes.
It was how he did it, how he delivered it, why he was doing it, why at this point. And those pieces really helped me become a CEO and start, Treeline.
So this is so interesting because, a lot of what I talk about is, when we oftentimes go find those like sales managers, right? Or we're recruiting those different people. I always talk about that it's a different skill set between being just a salesperson, not just a salesperson, but a salesperson and then a sales manager, right? It's a different focus. And to your point, the motivating, the accountability, that becomes so critical. And if you don't mind, I want to press on this a little bit and talk through this with you, because this is a key part, right? That Tony obviously figured out. You've been able to leverage in your business and managing a team and business and just sales professionals that you and your team work with. But let's talk about that motivation side of things. So when you were taking these notes with Tony, what did you notice about like what was different? Because a lot of us have meetings, like sales, like people have meetings. I have meetings with my team, but sometimes it's not as effective or it doesn't leave that lasting impression. So talk to me a little bit, like what did Tony do that you took notes on that you leveraged today to help manage and motivate?
You know what? He worked hard to help. He worked hard to build a foundation for each salesperson so that they could believe, to have the confidence to believe in their ability. When I first started at Diversified, I was not good at it. I mean, I was naive, I was impressionable, I couldn't take leadership. And because of all of those things, I really actually couldn't give good advice. I would be listening, right? I'd be listening to what people were saying and I'd be telling them what they wanted to hear. But what people need is solid advice as to how they can move their career forward. And I just couldn't do that. And so I was failing. And part of it was because there was a lot of doubt. I didn't believe I could be the number one rep. And then, I started to believe in positive affirmation, something taught by Tony, right? Yes. All of the one push-up rule and motivation and things of that nature, and belief, action, result, motivation kind of thing. And so it took me a long time. Like I still do it today. I wake up, I jump in the shower, I say, today's going to be the best day of my life. Today's going to be the best day of my life. Because you need it, right? You need that. Same thing. I'd be driving to work and I'd be saying, I am the number one recruiter at Diversified. I am the number one recruiter at Diversified. And while I was the last worst producing rep, I shouldn't say soon, in time, I became that person. And it took me a long time to believe in myself, Matt, but I needed the support system, the direction, and the mentorship to get there. Right? Yes. I just needed it.
Yes. Well, and I think sometimes we think these positive affirmations are a little woo-woo and out there and, throw it to the universe or, all these sorts of things. But at the same time, it's driving confidence, right? Yeah. It's that courage. It's that self-belief. And I think even saying it when you don't yet fully believe it, even if you're like whatever level you're at, you have to continue to say it. And that's what you did every day and probably moment by moment, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, you're dead on, right? In your mind, you don't believe it. So it's really hard to say it because you feel foolish, like you're lying to yourself, but it works. It's my wife I actually helped my wife find her first sales career job. And
good commission on that, I hope.
Yeah. She got it. She called it chanting. She used to make fun of me. And then she was like, wow, this really does work. And so with my kids, even my kids, it's a belief system. When they there's a saying on the door as they walk the door, today's going to be the best day of life. It's like a frame or something. And it's just to be positive. Just, life, you have to work at being positive, right? If you want to make someone's day, I always say this, it's easy to make someone's day. You know how you do it? Smile at them. Just smile at everybody. Right? They'll smile back. If you want someone to smile at you, it's super easy. All you got to do is smile at them and they'll smile back. So it's how you want to choose to live your life and your days. So I'm thankful. Tony taught me that. I didn't have that in me, right? Inherently, it wasn't necessarily in me, but I learned a lot. I learned a ton from him.
That's so huge. Well, and for those out there listening that maybe think it's a little hokey, I mean, I believe it. Dan believes it. I mean, there's a lot of people in this world who believe it, but you have to say it over and over and over and over again, because it's what that be, have, do concept, right? Yeah. That, we have to be the person first in order to, or do the things to have the things. Be, do, have. I can't remember if I said it backwards or not, but you have to start from that place of confidence, which is what Tony taught you, and I think is so critical in a sales role and also a sales management role, because the same thing applies of like, I'm the number one sales manager, right? I am the sales manager. I am the sales leader. Like whatever you want to say, like say it over and over again, because then the actions will start lining up to that person.
Yeah.
And that's the critical part.
Yeah. And it takes a long time. I've been doing this for 22 years. Yeah. I can't tell you how many people I've influenced and we've pushed, we've helped figure out the same thing, whether they're with Treeline or not with Treeline. It's helped them advance their own careers and their own life. Yes. And it's, like we talk about changing lives, right? When we say changing lives, we're talking about the people we've actually helped find new opportunities. So over 3,300 people, new opportunities. But do you know how many people we've helped that we haven't found a new opportunity? We helped them find their own opportunity. Or individuals that worked at Treeline that have advanced their careers, right? Or changed their lives, right? I can't tell you how many people look back and say, "Oh my God, that was the best experience I've ever had at Treeline. I learned so much." Those things matter. I don't know. I believe you give a positive vibe and good things out to the world that comes back to you.
Yeah, it's that greater legacy, right? Of we're here to help, and the way you help is through this happens to be this business. Yeah. That changes lives through that. I think that's incredible.
It's interesting too, Matt, like early people that are just getting started in their career, or maybe sometimes down in their career, entrepreneurs, sales managers. I mean, you need, everyone says you need grit, right? And grit is not a daily thing or a monthly thing or a yearly thing. I mean, you've been in business for almost 12 years. I've been in business for almost 23. When we talk about time, grit is it's the marathon. It is time. It takes time. If you think you're going to accomplish something in a month and you don't and you give up, it's not a month. It's not a year. You have to, do the actions daily on a daily basis, and change will happen. And if you continue to do it and you continue to believe, your success will follow.
Yes, so true. I was just sharing with someone yesterday, Dan, that my longest sales cycle was 8 years. 8 years. And I was like, why aren't they buying? Now, a lot of it was belief driven. A lot of it was the methodology change, the way I talked about it, like the positioning, all these sorts of things, timing, budget. There are lots of influences along the way, but 8 years from the first conversation to an actual sale being made. And again, people are like, wow, like, how did you stick to it? I'm like, no, there's nothing special going on over here. It's just, I kept in front of mind, and every quarter, every 6 months, I just check in. What's up? How's it going?
Yep.
And timing seemed to line up. So it's that daily, this stuff takes time.
It takes so much time. I mean, it takes time. 22 years, the amount of people we have BDRs that we help to find opportunities that are CROs. Right. And we're close with all of these people, right? We've built these great relationships. So, and they know we are a really genuine company, right? One of our core values, do what's right. Right. I mean, it's like, and that has really propelled the brand. We're just so genuine. We have almost no turnover. When we have someone find a new opportunity, they almost never turn over. It's like nothing. And the reason is we spend so much time understanding their background, understanding what their needs and wants are, what they're looking for. And the same thing with the client. No one should be overselling anyone. They should be having a conversation to figure out if it's a good fit or not. If it's not a good fit, let's keep building pipeline. But let's not disrupt someone's career just for a fee, so that 6 months later it doesn't work out. That's not us. That is not us. And so while we've been, I think, 5,000 fastest growing company, we've had a lot of growth. we probably could have grown at a lot higher, a faster pace, but that's not what's important to us. It's changing the lives, like positively changing lives. And when you do that right, Matt, you feel awesome. I mean, you do it right.
Yes.
You help so many people.
That's my passion. That's my drive. How I do it, it doesn't matter. It's like, but I want to positively impact people. So this is the way now, and let's do it. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I think, on that note, it's really interesting to me. I talk a lot in what I do, like coaching people about the hiring process, right? And I have my methodology for my company, right? Which I teach to salespeople of is it more intentionality in finding the right people, things like that. And there was something on your website that was really interesting. And the question that I wrote down, that I typed out, was, how do you cut through the fog to get to the truth when hiring? Right? How do you see the full picture, like, of that person that's sitting across from you, right? Or virtually with you when you're hiring a salesperson. And on your website, I was looking because you have a few guides on there that I thought were really interesting, right? Like interview guides, and just making sure you've got templates so you can be intentional with who you hire. And you have this, I'll quote this, right? But some of these wordings, but you say, companies often describe the soft personality characteristics that they find to be important. This includes people who are self-starters, good listeners, team players, highly motivated, detail-oriented, competitive, etc. As a result, salespeople learn to speak in these same terms in sales interviews. Unfortunately, some sales professionals may unintentionally oversell their ability, which results in a bad hire or poor career choice for the sales professional, end quote, right? So I've experienced this. I think everyone listening has experienced this. I don't care if you're managing salespeople or not. You've experienced this where people come in. I remember back when I started my career in accounting, Dan. I mean, don't judge me. Right? My devastating credit, but but I remember one woman walked in and she goes, like, so why this job? Like, why would you be good at this job? I can't remember how I phrased the question, and her answer was, I'm an accountant's accountant. And I was like, what does that even mean? But I'm like, okay, I get what you mean. But we sometimes, like, people say the right things. And so as sales managers, how do we cut through that? It's really challenging. So talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you look at that to make sure that from a hiring perspective, we're not just getting like, oh, they said they're competitive and they have, this background or that background, which leads us honestly to not asking the deeper question.
Yeah.
The right question. But let's dive into this a little bit.
Yeah, totally. And not for nothing, the soft skills just aren't enough to identify if a person's the right fit for your selling environment. But there's so many things to unravel here. Let's just talk about the soft skills for a second. So one of the things that we do, and just to set the expectation and reduce the pressure, is we say, this is not an interview. Like, hey, Matt, I'm so happy to meet with you. The first thing I want to start out with is, just so you know, this is not an interview. I don't want to sell you, and I don't want you to sell me. I just want to figure out if this is a good match. And if we together can just have a dialogue and conversation to figure out if we're well suited, then let's keep moving the ball forward. If we're not, we're not. But there's no need to force this, because if we do, we could both make a mistake. And if we both make a mistake, we're going to regret it. And by the way, I'm totally transparent. Ask me any question you want. I will give you as much information as I possibly can so that you can make a good decision. And then I also say, I'm a bit biased. So at times I get excited. It's not, I'm excited about our organization. It's not to be selling you, but sometimes I just get passionate and excited. Is that fair? Does that make sense? Yes, it does. So hopefully you can reduce that. Like, everyone walks in there, especially in sales, they're looking to sell. And sometimes they don't even know. They're just so busy selling. They're selling themselves into an opportunity that they don't even know if they really like or not, because they really didn't take the time to have a real conversation about the opportunity, the company, the culture, and the role to make sure it's a good fit for them and it's a good fit for you.
So good. I love that. Well, because that takes the guard down, right?
Right.
It's like, let's ask the right questions of each other so we can determine if it's a good fit or not.
If you start asking these unusual, like, trick questions to try to figure out who a person is, what you're doing is you're just pushing their guard up. You're not you're not diffusing, like you're not having an honest conversation when you ask, if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? You know what I mean? It's
right.
opposite. All you're doing is you're getting them, you're forcing them to, you're creating a behavior to force them to tell you what you think they want you to, what they think you want to hear.
Yes, that makes
Because
total
they're just
sense.
confused. They don't even understand the question. How about right? Like, let's talk about your sales process and your audience you're selling to, and what the sales cycle is, and what your sales side, which average sales side, what was your quota? What was your percentage to quota? What is your process? What is your playbook? Let's unravel. Let's talk about what you're doing, and then let me tell you what we're doing. Let's see if is it a good match? Is it the same audience? I don't know. So,
for all you sales managers and leaders out there, I wonder if you've ever thought the phrase, "Why in the world did I sign up for this?" I know I have. And the reality is that leading a team of salespeople can be challenging, right? Just figuring out how to motivate each person and keep the pipeline full, and just dealing with the pressure of delivering the month after month results that your company's requiring. And call me an optimist, but amidst the challenge, amidst sometimes the frustration, we have this opportunity in front of us to really impart our knowledge, right? And to leave that legacy on our team and just achieve next level results. And that's why today I want to personally invite you to our free masterclass training, where I'm going to share the exact secrets, the exact framework that I teach sales leaders around North America to help just take you to next level results for you and your team. And it's actually the exact framework that I taught one of my clients who, over a 12-month period, tripled organic revenue growth and increased margin by 30%. So I want to invite you to that masterclass. You can click the link below or head over to mattphillipscoaching.com/webinar, and can't wait to see you in the training. Well, and I think too, so let me ask this question, because it's not that I'm looking at the roadblocks or something negative when I ask this question, but I do like to ask the question of, you take this role, like what's going to be the biggest roadblock for you, like filling the pipeline and making sales? Like what's going to be the thing that is going to get in your way? And again, I love your opinion on that question, but it's kind of in my mind getting it like, okay, everything's always rose-colored glasses. Like, oh, I've got all these connections, I've got this, I've got that, but what's going to get in your way? Is it knowledge of the industry? Is it knowledge? Maybe you're switching industries. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's, we've got this non-compete that we're going to have to fight through. And I am starting from scratch. Or like, how it's starting to think strategically, how do we accelerate this person if they take the role, and where are the roadblocks going to be?
So the first thing, as a candidate, by the way, I would answer that question. But before I did, I would first want to figure out, what are the roadblocks and challenges that your company's facing now when you sell? And by the way, I'm not asking that so I can, conjure up like a wicked awesome answer. You know what I mean? Yes, I just want to, I don't understand the sales cycle. I don't understand the process. I don't know what the company's struggling with right now. Yes. So if I could understand that, I could tell you what I think some of my challenges would be. And if someone didn't feel comfortable giving me those answers, then I would say, then I can just make an assumption and a guess as to what I think some of the biggest challenges are. Yes. And I probably still need more information. I'd still want to know, what is your average sales size? What is your sales cycle? I would need more information to be able to answer that question as to what I think my greatest challenge would be. But if you could have honest dialogue like that, and you could actually talk, like, you're like, all right, if I was a hiring manager, like, all right, this person knows what they're talking about. They're asking the right questions. This is a good dialogue, right? If their question to you was, well, car allowance is going to be an issue.
What's your car allowance?
I don't know. I'm just goofing around. But I guess my point is, if you can have that honest dialogue, then all right, I'm working with a pro, and that's what I'm looking for. Yes. And then now you can talk about truly what the concerns would be for their candidate, and then also what are the challenges for the company. And if you can understand what both of those are, then expectations are set on both sides. Yep. So when a person comes in, you can sustain a healthy relationship.
That's very true. And I think, I don't know if you feel this way, but I'm a big believer, Dan, in the quality of questions you ask determines the quality of fill in the blank, leader you become, sales records that you break. Like it's the quality of questions. And we see this a lot in sales too, right? Of, you got to ask the right questions to really understand everything about the business. And that's from, where's their pain lie? What are they trying to solve? Like, what's their buying process? I mean, all sorts of stuff, right? But it's the quality of questions you ask. I think same thing is true in the interview process. It's getting away from, questions or statements like, well, just tell me about yourself.
Right.
Okay, that's useful. I get it.
Yeah.
I get where you're going, but it's also that taking time to think through, like, what are the questions you want to ask or need to ask to have that dialogue, and just
little more
be
leadership.
honest with
I think, by the way, I actually like to hear a person's backstory, because there are a lot of things that you find as they've gone through life, their accomplishments, and it does tell a really good story. But I think one of the biggest challenges, Matt, for companies is it's when even when they have a great interview process, what most of them lack is their biggest challenge is they have no ability to recruit talent. Their pipeline stinks. They have so no matter as much as we can do to help managers and teams interview and hire the right fit, their real problem is they never see the right fit, because they never build a decent enough pipeline of qualified people. So they just end up hiring the best one. And it's so a lot of times I look and say, by the way, all of this is super relevant, but a lot of times what companies miss is they just miss the front end, their ability to bring them talent.
Yes.
And by the way, that's not a plug for Treeline. It's just in general, you need your own strategy, but you have to bring in good people to make this all work.
Well, it's that whole it's like a statistical model, right? So if you have a certain population of people, and you have the right population of people, the chances are that you will have more success with as you put them through the process, right? It's no different than pipeline. If I've got a good upfront lead gen system, and it's really high quality, then chances are I'm probably going to be able to move them through the pipeline as somewhat well, hopefully really well. But if my upfront lead gen process is terrible, then it's like garbage in, garbage out, if you will.
It's exactly right. There's nothing, like, you must sit with so many teams and like, all right, I know how to do all this, Matt. This is awesome. How do I get people? Like, I need to interview someone to be able to practice this, and all the people I'm interviewing they're just not a good fit. It's like that tends to be one of the greatest challenges we see.
That's true. Well, I think that's why, again, I'll plug Treeline, but having partners who understand that, of how to conjure up the pipeline. I mean, in my business, we have lots of lead generation tools that we utilize, right? So this podcast is a lead generation tool, and it's not to try to manipulate someone to buy it, but it's just like it's an avenue to get to know me, get to know you, Dan, get to know guests, and hear my perspective. And if it's at a point where you want to have us help you someday, then awesome, cool. We've got Facebook ads that we run, LinkedIn ads that we run. We've got all these, and we're always trying to optimize that upfront piece to get better quality leads into our business, because that's what sustains the business. I mean, just being completely blunt, like, we're here to help people, but if I have no people to help, then I'm going to struggle helping people. Right? I guess stand on the side of the road with a sign like, I'll help you for free, or whatever my fee is, I guess. But it's that upfront piece, and that's why I utilize partners as well to figure out, okay, how do I make sure that's really high quality coming in? And oftentimes I don't have that answer, and I've got to seek people who do. Do you see, like, when you're working with companies, is there if they have an internal recruiting team and working with someone like you, is it kind of a partnership made in heaven type thing? Or what kind of mix of, like, if they have an internal recruiting team versus using a resource like Treeline, what does that kind of look like? Or does it depend on the need? It depends on the company.
If it's an internal recruiting team that needs help and they appreciate the partnership, it's awesome. Awesome. If it's an internal recruiting team that feels like they're competing, it won't work. We won't continue that relationship. It doesn't make sense. We're there to support the internal recruiting team. We're not there to take their jobs. And if that's misunderstood, we can't add a lot of value, right? And usually the challenge is with large organizations, they're just looking for a resume. And that's just not us, Matt. Like, we know everyone we work with. We know what they want to do. We know what they're looking for. We know our clients. We know what they want. We find the match. We're not a resume mill. We're not just throwing resumes to a company. It's not who we are.
Yes.
So our sweet spot is,
that makes
pre-revenue to 150 million. And if you really want to dive in, it's probably, I mean, that's really it is. But if you really want to dive in, it's probably like 20 to 50 million, somewhere in that range.
Yep. That makes total sense. Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, and the upfront piece is so huge. Because I know you hire different roles, right? So salespeople and leaders and things like that too.
VP of sales, right down to BDRs and SDRs, everything in between.
Yep. I was curious, when you're looking at hiring someone for a leadership role, right? And that could be just a manager, or it could be a CRO, right? But in that kind of leadership space, I'm managing people. What do you look for? What does your team look for that's different than a BDR or an individual contributor salesperson? Are there huge differences? Are there small differences? How do you assess and look for that?
I would take I don't know. I hope this doesn't, bum anyone out that's listening to this, but we would take a CRO or a VP sales. We'd take a senior AE role over a BDR, SDR role any day of the week. We do work in that market, of course, but the reason why is because BDRs and SDRs they're just figuring it out. So there is no track record typically. So there's a tremendous amount of heavy lifting. You need to basically talk to every single person. It could be an athlete graduating school or someone that maybe was a BDR for a year, whatever it is. The point is, we have to talk to every one of our candidates anyway, because we do sales. So there's not a lot of sales recruiting firms because it's such heavy lifting. You really need to understand who they are aside from their resume. But entry-level people, you can't see it on their resume. And even when you talk to them, you're guiding them and helping them figure out what sales is and making sure it's the right choice for them, right? So there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yes.
A CRO, you pick up the phone and say, all right, I'm contacting you today, or you're in my network because you're calling on this audience. This is the size of team you've managed. You've taken a $20 million company to a $50 million company with a successful exit. We can see, we can see and understand who they are, or at least to see if they meet their requirement on paper. Now the conversation's a lot different. There's still a lot of work there, but they know where they are. They know who they are. They know what they want to do, and as a result, it's a much more straightforward process. Now we work with SDRs and BDRs because we really want to introduce them to the sales community, find a great opportunity, grow their career, and those SDRs and BDRs will become future salespeople and future leaders. The majority of our placements are really enterprise level and above.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, I think one thing I press on quite a bit, and I talked a little bit before, but to be in leadership or management is way different than being an individual contributor. And one is not better than the other. One is not, there's nothing wrong with either. It's just understanding your skill sets and where you want to go and evolve to within an organization, right? Within a sales function. Talk to me a little about, I imagine you have those types of conversations, right? Where even there's someone in a managing people role. Do you come across those people where you're like, do you really want to be in a manager role, or do you want to do something different? Or how do you help people navigate that? Because that's a big thing of like, ooh, that sounds cool to do that. But how do you talk to candidates about that, or just companies to be like, okay, well, yeah, they were a high performer over here. I don't know if they're the right fit for this.
Usually what we do is, again, we go through their story. So we know what they've done. And you might find, some of the things we would go through is, you can go all the way through their story, but you were a BDR to an inside sales rep, to a mid-market rep, to an enterprise rep, you became a sales manager, things of that nature. And by the way, you've done that in some small companies, some large companies, So we go back and we look and we say, all right, you were at this company for a year and a half, and you were at this company for 5 years. And when we talk through your experience, the greatest amount of success, the most amount of fun, the most enjoyment was from this SaaS company with an average deal size of this and the team of this size and revenue of this point, right? So we're trying to figure out, all right, so let's go through your background and figure out where you found the greatest success. And then looking at that type of modeling, that type of opportunity and company, let's go find companies that are similar to that. And the real question is, where do you want to be? Do you want to be a VP? Do you want to be a CRO? Do you want to be a CEO? Where are we headed? Where are you looking to be, become a GM of North America for a European company? So we're trying to figure out all of those details. And once we understand what a person's done, what they like, then we can give them advice on where we're going and what we should target. And then the advantage to using us is they can continue to work while we're searching for that fit. Now, by the way, that fit, depending on your requirement, it could take a day, it could take a month, it could take us 12 months to find that company. But all of a sudden you'll get the phone call that says, "You're never going to believe this. I finally found it. I've got this VP sales role. This is this company. This is the size of it. It's exactly what you had mentioned. Check them out. Let me know what you think."
Yes. Yeah. And I'll say it slightly differently, and I hope everybody's listening to this, but it's like going back and listening to their story, understanding where they experienced success and what they liked. And I'll say it slightly differently. I'm just a big believer, Dan, in like, put yourself in a position where you get the most energy, right? And your energy could come from closing deals. It could come from managing people. It could come from prospecting, whatever it is. But it's find where you get energy. I always joke with people all the time. They'll, be like, I want to be whatever. They'll throw out a title. I want to be this. And I'm like, okay, I need $70 and about an hour of your time, and I can make that happen. And they're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, what we're going to do is here in the state of Colorado, at least where I live, to file an LLC, because we have to come up with a company name, but we're going to file an LLC, and that costs $50. And then we're going to take the other $20, and what we're going to do is go create business cards. And we'll put the title of that company, and I'm going to put whatever role you want on there. You want CRO, you want CEO, whatever. We're going to do it. President? Sure. El Presidente? Awesome. Right? Whatever you want. $70, that's what I need, and an hour of your time. And I say it obviously jokingly, right? Where I'm like, and we could do that, by the way. But the title, it doesn't really matter. And it's nice to have a title, but it's like, don't you want to be doing something where you have the energy to perform, where you wake up in the morning and it's not a chore like you do to say today is going to be the greatest day ever, because you actually believe that it's going to be a great day today, because you're walking into something that you're like, oh my gosh, I get so much energy from it. At least that's what I have. I know that's what you have. It's because I'm staying in my energy zone. Like, it doesn't matter. Call me whatever. And I'm doing what I want. And I you said it slightly differently, but it's going back and understanding, where did you experience success? Why was that important to you? What do you want to do? And let's be clear on that if we put you in there, or you get this opportunity, or you step up, or you get this promotion, whatever, that you're going to be energized by it.
You nailed it. You actually did a much better job answering that question than I did. That was good. It was good. You're right. Like you sometimes you're going through a person's background and you're like, wait a second. All of your success was back when you were an individual contributor. I know you're on the path to you think the next step is VP, but you made the most amount of money and you had the most amount of success as an individual contributor. Are you sure you want to go after a VP role? Or do you want to be an individual contributor? And it just for a second, they stop, because they just feel themselves on this roller coaster ride, and they're just in the seat and moving, but they haven't really stopped for a second and said, oh, you're right. That's a good way of looking at this. Let me digest this for a second. Let me come back to you and really just sort out where I want to be and what I want to do next.
Yes. I think it's so critical, and I'm so glad you guys do that, because it's not saying no has to be the answer. It's just pause for a minute. I love that. Like, just hold on a minute, pause, and you can come back as half a second later and be like, yep, that's what I want. Awesome. At least we considered it. Now let's go forward. Because there's great things about management. Like, I love managing people. I think it's fun. Not a lot of people think that. But if you have a passion behind sales or closing deals, like whatever it is, managing people, I believe it's just, then the effort comes with it, right? It's like, I'm working with my son's hockey team right now, and because I love working with student athletes, and I keep talking to hockey player after hockey player after hockey player, and it's like the ones that succeed have a love for the sport. They just enjoy themselves. They get the energy from it. And so practice is not a chore. The game is not a chore. And I think that's where that asking the right questions, going through and telling the story becomes so critical. Like, I want you to love work, coming to work every day. It's so critical. Now I know we're almost at time, and I want to be cognizant of that time, Dan. I think I could talk to you for quite a while. Let me ask you kind of one question, and this is as a leader, as a business owner, because I'm just curious. But when you look back at your 23-year history with this business, what are some of the, like, what's one thing that you've had to overcome, like as a business owner, as a leader, like maybe something you've learned or challenge you've had to overcome, which has kind of molded you into the leader you are today?
I mean,
the loaded one.
You know, you can write down a list of how many things.
No, I'm kidding.
What's coming at you? I think for me, I think there are highs and lows, and money comes and goes. And so for me, the expectation that it's going to take time and you have to hang in there is probably, for any entrepreneur or salesman, anyone in sales or starting their own business. I think, and we talked about this earlier, it's time. Like, it's your ability to hang in there. Actually, there's a sign behind you. If you move your head, it says, just keep going. Just keep going. It's so true. Like, that's where most people fail. They just can't keep going. And so people think of failure. I just don't, I don't know. Failure is only something that happens if you stop doing it, right? So if you were teaching someone, if you were learning how to ride a bike and you tried to get on and you crashed and you said, I'm done, never riding a bike again, then yes, I would say you fail. If you get on that bike again the next day and you pedal twice and then crash, well, I wouldn't call that a failure. I'd actually call that a win. And then the next day you pedal 3 times or 4 times, next day 5 times, 6 times. By the end of the week, you're riding around the block. I would say that's a win. So I guess my point is, it's easy to give up and it does take time. And what I mean by time, it's not 30 days. It's not 6 months. It's like a lifestyle change. It is a commitment to something that you have to stick to. So I think that would be my expectation. It just takes time.
Love that.
A lot of time to build brand and right. 5 years. People always say 5 years. It's a heck of a lot longer than 5 years. But you just got to love it. You're like the student athlete.
That's my experience.
You got to love it.
Yep.
You've got to be in it, and you got to be in it for the long haul. And the long haul could be 20. I mean, now I'm doing this for 22 years. So that's time. Time is the long haul.
Love that. Love that answer. I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's important for people to hear, and whatever, if you're a business owner or salesperson or sales manager, that's sound advice. I appreciate that, Dan.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thanks, man.
All right. Last question, then I'll let you go. But what's the best way for people to connect with you, Dan, to learn more about Treeline and just you, and what are the best ways to connect?
Yeah. Well, if you want to learn about Treeline, website is treelineinc.com. If you want to connect with me, you can go to the Treeline website and just to contact us and say, I'd love to chat with Dan Fantasia, or you know what, just LinkedIn. It's Dan Fantasia on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn anytime. Send me a message. I will reach out. I'm happy to chat. So don't be shy. Just send me a note.
Love it. Love it. And we'll put all obviously links in the show notes. So please go below, connect with Dan, check out Treeline. And Dan, I just can't thank you enough for taking your time today with me. And that, 45 minutes or so that we've had, went pretty darn fast. So I just, I'm bummed our time is over for now on this podcast episode, but thank you so much for being a guest.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today on the Matt Phillips Podcast. If you are like us, we know that you are here to do great things. to become the sales leader that makes things happen and drives big time sales results. We know you have that big vision, and we are here to help get you where you want to go. We're here to help you develop that unstoppable, rock solid leadership skill set and help you train to master the one true differentiator, mental toughness. We would love to be part of your journey. So if you are ready, head over to mattphillipscoaching.com and check out the ways that we can help. As always, please share this episode and make sure you subscribe by clicking the button below. Thank you again. And now, go crush the day.